Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this is going to be my review for the Vampire Diaries Season 6, Episode 6, The More You Ignore Me, The Closer I Get. And this episode was very interesting, definitely. It was very different to see Damon back, especially because of what happened to Elena. It was probably the best episode of the season. I really loved this episode. I loved everything that happened in it. There were some really awesome twists in this episode, definitely. A lot of stuff I was not expecting that I really enjoyed a lot. This episode does confirm that I think pretty much Bonnie is gone on the show. They didn't really show any flashbacks of her. There was some talk about her and Kai possibly having more flashbacks, but I think that enough flashbacks, but like that storyline, I think that whole storyline is done. So I'm just going to confirm that, I think Bonnie is done from the show pretty much. Because, she killed Kai and everything. Now, some people said that she's trapped, but I don't know. I don't think we're going to know officially till the mid-season finale. But overall, I love this episode, thought it was great, and let's just get to it. So, of course, at the end of last week's episode, Ivy was captured by Tripp, and we now see that he has Ivy and some others chained up in his van. And he tells her she doesn't want this life. She struggled because, she really didn't want this life. She didn't want to be a vampire. And she told Stefan that it's really his fault. She still is pretty upset at him, which, again, she has a right to be. I've talked about this before, that Ivy does have a right to be mad at Stefan. So he tells her she doesn't want this life, and she struggles to pull the chains loose, but nothing happens. And he's driving across the city line into Mystic Falls, and all the vampires go pop. And Stefan and Damon are embracing, and I thought this was a very good scene, because I love the way last week's episode ended with the two of them reuniting. I thought that was probably, as I said, the best ending of the season so far. Still is, because this episode's ending was very good, but that was still the best ending of the season so far. And, I really love the conversation they have, and everyone agrees with me pretty much. I think we can all agree this, that the best thing they did this season so far was bring Damon back and not have him go to, not have him visit Elena first, have him visit Stefan first, because at the end of the day, the show is about the Salvatore brothers. It is. Even though the main character is Elena, you have to have that Salvatore brother, relationship there. They're the most important relationship on the show. So, Damon says he had to come back because he promised him an eternity of misery, and Caroline then tells Elena, we actually see like a montage of everyone finding out Damon's back. I really love the way they started out here. Caroline tells Elena that Damon's back, and that Bonnie sacrificed herself to get him back, and Damon explains that they were in Mystic Falls, a 1994 prison, and Damon promises to fill Stefan in on everything, but first he wants to see Elena. Of course, that is his main goal, because Elena's love his life. Who says she doesn't want to see him. Stefan's like, oh, you don't want to see her and everything, because pretty much, of course, she's been compelled. And Stefan tells Damon that Elena had Alaric compel her memory away, but Damon says she'll remember him, and there were fireworks. And Elena talks to Alaric as this is going on and makes him promise he won't lift the compulsion until she asks. She doesn't want to get that compulsion back yet. And Alaric says Damon is going to kill him for this. And he then tells her he tried to compel Joe, but didn't work. So he pretty much thinks that his compulsion is not going to work. He wants her to find out why Joe is compulsion proof. Which, I thought that was a very interesting twist last week with us finding out that Joe couldn't be compelled. I was kind of like, why couldn't she be compelled? We do find out why in this episode. I will talk about why in a second, but I thought that was definitely really cool, and definitely something I really enjoyed about the episode was that scene in particular. I thought that was really good. So, Elena asks him to call Jeremy and break the news, and Jeremy goes to leave, and Sara says that who we did not see last week, we did not see anything with Jeremy or Sara last week, we do see them back in this episode, and Sarah's talking about how she thought he was going to help her find her family. Of course, she wants to find, her family, because now she knows who her family is. What she doesn't realize, though, is that her dad is dead. Zach Salvatore is dead. I don't think she realizes that. So, basically, he says he can't do this right now, and she asks what's so urgent that finally got his ass off the couch, and he says he just needs to get out of there, and of course we know why he is like this, because he knows that Bonnie is officially gone. So Matt comes to see Enzo, and we haven't seen Enzo since episode 3, so it was really big to see him again, and slops most of the blood he was bringing him onto the floor. He thinks Matt is going to help him escape, but Matt says there must be a good reason that Stefan turned him in, and Enzo threatens to tell Tripp about Stefan, Elena, Caroline, and the others. Basically, I thought that was really big, because of course Tripp is going after vampires, so he threatens that he might do that. So then Tripp comes back from his trip to Savannah and says he tracked down Ivy, but she was at Whitmore, not Savannah. And honestly, in this episode, Tripp seemed the most menacing to me. Like, he was definitely very menacing last week, but after this episode, man, he is a very good menacing villain, and I really do love his, that he's the main villain of the season. He's doing a great job. So he tells Enzo he's got one day to give up the location of his vampire friends, or they're going to go sightseeing in Mystic Falls, which, of course, that means certain death for Enzo, because if that happens, then he's gonna burst into flames and get burned, because there can't be any vampires in Mystic Falls. So he leaves, and Matt comes to tell Caroline and Alaric about Enzo being held prisoner, and he says Tripp killed Ivy and 2 other vampires last night, and Alaric asks Matt to find out who Tripp's next target is, and Matt says if Enzo tells them who they are, they will be in trouble, and Alaric asks how Tripp got Enzo, and Stefan comes in and says he turned him in. Stefan says that right away, and I'm glad that he confessed to that, because Stefan's kind of now trying to fix all the mistakes that he made. He's trying to fix all that, which I thought was really interesting to see, and I'm glad that he is trying to fix that. So Damon then shows up to Elena's dorm room, and we get what I was looking forward to the most in this episode, which was Elena and Damon's first confrontation. And obviously, as expected, it's very awkward. She's telling him to go away. Basically, she has a door closed. He's on the other side of the door, and he tells her that she told him once that what she felt for him was the most real thing she ever felt in her life, but she says those feelings are gone. And he says that's a lie, and taking those memories away is just a lie. She starts to open the door. He says he's been waiting to hear her breathe again. He begs her to open the door and says everything can be like it was, but she won't, and he asks her again. And he says she needs to move because he's going to kick the door in. She ends up unlocking the door, and he opens it, but she zips away through the open window. She really just doesn't want anything to do with him. And he sees the curtains waving from the swirl of her departure, and it's really sad, definitely, what's going on there. So Elena calls Stefan, and she tells him that she jumped out the window. She says she's happy now and doesn't want to look at him because her old feelings might come back, and she doesn't want them to be. So she says how this was actually a smart choice for her future, and in terms of her life right now, I would have to say yes, but it's all a lie right now. I agree with Damon definitely that this is really all a lie. Her entire life is a lie. She's not exactly happy. She just thinks she is because she was compelled to by Alaric, so I think that definitely is very interesting. So she tells him that she kissed Liam, and he tells her not to tell Damon, and she says he might kill Liam, and he says Damon would be heartbroken if he finds that out. And in the meantime, Elena's spying on Joe and takes a sip of her coffee, and she tells Elena to follow her, and they go to work. And Matt is researching online trying to figure out what Tripp is up to when Sara shows up, and he tells her she can't be there, and she asks why he's in Tripp's office, and she asks about the Salvatores and says Zach Salvatore was her dad. And she says both her parents died from an animal attack, and she says Tripp seems to know a lot about homicidal wildlife, and he points her to a file drawer to check. So Alaric comes home and finds Damon waiting. So they share a drink, and Alaric asks how he is. And Damon says he was in a retro pocket universe and then got out to find out that. And I love this line. He's like, I just got out to find out my best friend compelled my girlfriend to forget she ever loved me. So I thought that was really good. And you can see that obviously he is upset with him. I mean, come on. Alaric just... I understand why Damon's upset. What he doesn't realize is that Alaric can't really undo this because Elena told him specifically not to. And he knows that she was a train wreck without him. And Alaric says she loved him too much and says it was killing her. And Damon tells him to uncompel her, and Alaric says he can't unless she asks him to, which right now she doesn't want him to. So Elena says, Damon says Elena won't ever see him. She won't even see him. She wants nothing to do with him. And Alaric says she's happy, and Damon says he wants her to be happy with him. That's what he wants his life to be. So Stefan then tells Caroline he turned him over to Tripp because he was putting them all at risk, and Stefan says he just thought Tripp was going to kill Enzo, not turn on them. He just thought, which is true, I personally just thought that, Stefan and Tripp were going to end up working together and kill Enzo, and that's what they do. They just work together, and we find out what's going on between them. However, this has screwed Stefan over tremendously, which I love. I love this plot of basically all the wrong stuff that Stefan has done, even though he wants to fix it, it's kind of too late because it screwed him over. So Caroline tells him that Tripp also killed Ivy, and he says he's rescuing Enzo to make it up to Damon. So yeah, Ivy's dead, which I expected. I didn't expect her to live through that. She asks how he's going to make up things to her, and Stefan yanks her out of sight when a couple of Tripp's minions come out of the building. They go inside but see that Enzo is gone completely, and Caroline's wondering where the hell he is, and Elena then compliments Joe's bracelet and tries to touch it, but she pulls away, and Joe says she wants her opinion on one of the corn maze victims who had extensive injuries, but is now in English Lit class, and she says Liam told her that Elena treated her at the scene, and Joe tells her she knows what Alaric is and what she is, and says if any more blood bags go missing, she'll come after her. So I'm like, how does she know this? How does she know that Alaric's a vampire? I thought Joe was a human. Clearly right here you can tell that she is definitely some sort of inhuman. You don't know what she is, but you can tell that she is something. So then we get one of the saddest scenes of the episode, definitely. Damon stares at the photos of the group that do not include any shots from Elena. He basically sees that Elena has gotten rid of every photo that includes her and Damon, which we did see her doing that. And Jeremy comes in and says he's basically stalking Elena, and Damon says he's lying in wait, and Jeremy asks why Bonnie didn't come back, and Damon lies and says he was alone there, and Jeremy comes to sit by him, and he tells him he paid her cell bill every month so he can hear her outgoing message, and Damon says he'll give it a call, and Jeremy reminds him he hated her, and Damon says Bonnie wasn't there with him because she found peace and moved on, is in a better place. And I agree with what Damon is saying, because, you know, Bonnie basically sacrificed herself, and now she's in heaven. That's what's happened to her, is that she's now in heaven, and now she's in a better place, and I definitely like hearing about that. And I like seeing Jeremy have genuine concern over Bonnie. I know a lot of people don't like them as a couple, myself included. I never thought they were the best couple on the show, but if the show wants me to root for them, I will root for them. I've said this before. I'm a fan of the Vampire Diaries. I'm not a fan of ships. I'm a fan of the Vampire Diaries, okay? Whatever the show wants me to root for, I will root for. That's just the way I go with the show. So, naturally, because of what just happened with Joe, Elena asks Joe how she knows, you know, what Alaric is, and she says she wasn't certain about Alaric until he tried to compel her. And Elena asks what she is, and Joe says busy. Joe says she tried to save the girl, and it turns out that she's a witch. And I thought that was a really great twist, because now that Bonnie's gone, we don't have a witch on the show except for Liv and Luke. And, you know, now we basically have another witch on the show, which I think is really cool, because this show was lacking witches, definitely. One of the things that I really hope they don't bring back, though, is that she can bring back dead people. That's the only thing here. I don't want her to be able to bring back dead people. I just don't want that to be a thing. I don't want her to be able to bring back, say, like, Bonnie. I don't want that to happen, because I want Bonnie to stay dead, because I think it'd be better if she just stays dead, in my opinion. So Joe says they can't leave the other alone, and they agree, and she tells her to tell Alaric so he can avoid a complicated relationship without any compulsion. And now it makes sense as to why he couldn't compel her, because she's a witch, and she probably had a spell on herself where she can tell when someone's compelling her. So Matt and Sara are searching Tripp's office when Caroline calls to say that Tripp has moved Enzo, and Matt finds Ivy's phone in Tripp's office and says that she was at the top of her speed dial, so he's likely coming after her next, and Caroline's panicking about this, because obviously that's a problem, because, you know, Tripp might come after Caroline now, and again, a lot of people have been speculating that Caroline is going to die this season, which I kind of, you know, every episode I think more and more of that. I just think we keep getting to that, and I agree that that's probably going to happen. So Damon looks at photos of Bonnie in Elena's room and then calls Bonnie's number, and this is such a heartbreaking scene, because again, these two have become so close. They were stuck in this hell together. They were stuck in 1994 for so many months. And now that he's apart from her, he's obviously has a lot, you know, he definitely really misses her. And he calls her message, and it's just a general message. And he basically says her outgoing message is way too short. He tells her he's in her room and just wanted to say that because of what she did for him. He'll get to see Elaine today, and he thanks her. He also tells her he's sorry and says he doesn't know what else he's supposed to say. He says he might miss her a little bit. And that was so sad to watch, because, of course, he's so happy what Bonnie did for him, but he does miss her, and it's understandable, because really Damon coming back, I mean, it hasn't been very happy at all. No one's really been nice to him, except for Stefan. He's happy to see him, but no one else is really that happy to see him, and he then gets a call, and it's Elena. And she says she doesn't know what she's doing, but thinks they should meet face to face, and she asks him to come by her dorm and says he'll be here. And I think that's a good thing, because I was thinking here's why Elena wants to do this, because she wants to get that spark back, but she doesn't want it to just be her getting her memories back. She wants it to come back naturally, which I personally do like. I like that this is not all magic. I like that she just wants it to come back naturally and basically start over. I think that's really cool. So basically, he tries to erase any signs that he's been lurking in a room, checks his hair to be sure it's neat, and waits. But then there's Tripp, and he has a dart. He shoots at Damon. Damon grabs it out of the air, throws it back, stabbing Tripp, and but then the two goons are there and load him up with uh, um, darts, and I thought that was just really, really crazy what's going on there. He basically grabs Tripp by the neck and demands to know who he is, but then the two goons are there, load him up with the trank darts, and Elena then heads to her dorm room and sees the door is open, and she looks inside and sees signs of a struggle. She calls out to Damon, but of course he's not there because he was just captured. So she calls Alaric, and he tells her to go meet Caroline and says they'll get him back, and he locks up his office when Joe comes by. And he says he has to go, and she asks why he doesn't compel her out of the way. And he says his best friend came back from the dead, but he has to save him from a vampire attack before he drives him across an anti-magic border and dies. And he tells her it's a good idea to stay as far away from him as possible. And I agree with that, definitely. Damon wakes to see Enzo chained near him, and this was really great because, of course, Damon and Enzo, they were really good friends, and they haven't seen each other in a while. And he says it will be a short reunion because they are headed to Mystic Falls, and the city line acts like a giant vampire bug zapper, and he tells him that Stefan turned him in. He asks why, and Enzo says he killed his new girlfriend. And then Caroline calls her mom, who has one road into town shut down, and Caroline and Elena stop by the side of the road and put out a tire to act as a decoy. And basically, Elena says if Damon survives this, she wants her memories back, which I thought was an amazing twist. And I kind of saw it coming, but not really. I like that she definitely said that, and I thought that was great. I was very happy about that because I do like seeing Elena genuinely happy, but it's all false. She's not really happy. It's just all false because Alaric compelled her. So to hear her finally say she wants her memories back, I thought was great. I definitely really enjoyed that. So she says she can't ignore the truth by picking out parts she doesn't like, and she says she can't know just half the story. And I thought that was really good. So Stefan and Alaric block another road into Mystic Falls with a Jeep, and Stefan rips apart the engine, and Stefan says it's his fault, and Alaric says he wasn't the only one that gave up, and I thought it was great that Stefan said that, because at the end of the day, this really was Stefan's fault on why this is happening. So Alaric said the last few months have been hell on him, with him wondering why he's this thing that he used to hunt, and he said searching for Damon was keeping his mind off of it, and he says it was a distraction, but says he had mostly given up to, and they see the van, because, Alaric and Stefan, they had a lot of problems, and they basically make amends here. And Alaric says for Stefan to stay out of sight and let Elena know they're there. And Alaric waves them over and asks for help, and Tripp says he doesn't know anything about cars, and then Alaric asks for a ride. And Damon recognizes his voice right away, and then Rick punches out the window, but Tripp grabs his tank gun and his tranquilizer gun, and shoots Alaric, and he floors it trying to drag Alaric across the country line with them, but they run into the Jeep where Stefan sits, and that sends the van reeling and skidding onto its top, and then to a stop nearby. So Stefan heads over to a van to check on his brother and Alaric, and Damon has a piece of metal sticking through him, which is really crazy. And Elena then says how Damon and Alaric are across the border and says he has to go, and he tries to get across to Alaric, but it causes him horrible pain. And Enzo and Damon are both struggling too, and Stefan breaks the back of the van open. Joe is there besides Alaric, and she says she followed him like a crazy sister. And Damon breaks them loose, and Tripp takes off at a run. And Alaric tells her to bring him across the border. She says she has to stop the bleeding first, because he's obviously he's bleeding very badly. And she puts on some homeostatic gauze on the original wound that killed him. And Stefan then gets Damon and Enzo back across the border. Joe has Alaric bandaged up and starts CPR, and it looks like he's for real dead. Like, he's not just, it's not like he's in a coma and he's gonna wake up. He looks like he's actually dead. So I was like, are they seriously gonna kill off Alaric? If they would have killed off Alaric, I would have been upset about it if they killed him off, but I'm glad they didn't, because I really like Alaric's character. He really is adding a lot to the show this season. I'm glad he's back. Plus, I love this plot with him and Joe, so I really wouldn't want them to kill him off. So Stefan and Damon are listening from nearby. She brings Alaric back, and he says something is wrong. He says he's not supposed to be alive, and she says she settled the wound, and she has to get him to the hospital. So I thought that was really crazy. So Caroline gets off a call and then tells Elena that they have to leave. She says Stefan said that Alaric crossed the border and Joe saved him, and Caroline says he's okay. And she asks Caroline why she looks off, and she says his magic is stripped away, but Joe saved him before he died. Which basically means that Alaric is human again, which also means that Elena is fucked, because Elena wants to get those memories back, and now she can't. And I think that's an amazing twist. I love that they did that. I love that Alaric is no longer immortal, because I think that is awesome, because now Elena is going to have to naturally get that spark between her and Damon back, which I'm definitely actually really looking forward to, because I think it's going to be cool to see something happen on the show that doesn't have to do with magic, to see it actually happen in a way that, she has to naturally get it back, and I think it's going to be really cool to see. So basically, Matt brings Sara back to the house, and he says he knows about her family and has some advice for her. And he tells her the house is owned by Damon and Stefan Salvatore, but says they are vampires and pain and suffering follows them everywhere. And he tells her she should not pursue them. And Jeremy curses and says he can't cancel Bonnie's phone without her PIN. And he rages they can't remember it. And, I thought this was a great scene, because the thing that Jeremy has been, the thing that's made Jeremy such a couch potato and such a, emotional, sort of like a douchebag is Bonnie. He misses Bonnie, and that's really what this is all about. And I love that we finally got this scene. He rages that he can't remember it. He starts breaking things and screaming, and he is so upset about Bonnie. And I love seeing that, because I didn't like seeing Jeremy as this couch potato. I didn't. I really wanted to see him grieve over Bonnie, and we're finally really seeing him grieve over Bonnie. I thought that was really good. We did get that in episode 4 with him, talking to Bonnie, but now we're seeing that he really knows that she's officially gone and there's no getting her back. So Sara tells him it'll be okay, but he says it won't be because she's gone, and it's really sad for 2 reasons. One, for us, because we know that Bonnie's officially gone and she's not coming back. 2, there's the fact that Jeremy's broken by this. He's completely broken by this. He knows that there's nothing he can do about it. He wishes there was something he could do about it, and there really is nothing he can do. So it's really sad. So Elena and Alaric are talking on the phone. He says that it hurts, but he's okay. And he says he's on a morphine drip, which is the next best thing to healing vampire blood. But now she can't get her memories back from him since he lost his power compulsion. So she says she's glad that he's human again, says she wishes she could look Damon in the eye, knowing the past and the truth, and she see how she feels about him. He wished her luck, and they ring off. Now, I really like seeing that Elena actually does want to get these memories back, and she does want to do something about this, because she is realizing that even though, as I've said before, she has this emotion, it's fake, completely fake, and I'm glad that she really wants to take some action into it. Because one of the things people have always said about Elena that they don't like, is that Elena is always very, she's kind of dumb sometimes, but I honestly feel like Elena's not really dumb. I feel Elena she liked this life, she thought she could keep it this way, and she didn't think Damon was going to come back, so she just wanted to keep things this way, and now that Damon's back, she wants to get things back to the way they used to be, because she wants to be happy again. Especially because she looked at that photo, she looked at this photo earlier of her and Damon at, I believe, a movie in a photo booth, making, funny faces, and she really just wants to get that, spark back in the relationship. So Joe then comes into Alaric's room and says the hospital sucks. He says that, she says she's getting him transferred to Whitmore ASAP, and he thanks her. He says she gave him back his life and thanks her again, which she did. And I really love that it seems to be the theme of this season is sacrifice. Now, it seems like that kind of what it is, because Joe sacrificed something for Alaric, even though she's not dead. Bonnie, of course, sacrificed her life for Damon to come back, so I really feel that sacrifice is going to be the big theme of this season, which I personally really like, because sacrifice is a really interesting thing that I like that the show is doing, and I definitely really am enjoying that. So Damon and Stefan sit drinking, and Damon says he was this close, he was this close to getting her back, and Stefan says he's sorry, and Stefan says he doesn't understand how hard it was on Elena, and Damon says it was hard on him too, and Damon says Alaric told him she was happy without him, but he says he wants her to be miserable without him. So I thought that was really, it makes sense definitely why Damon wants her to be like that, because Damon was the thing that she cared about the most. Think about episode 1 of this season. Damon was the thing that she cared about the most. Damon was the thing that made her upset, and it makes sense why he wants her to not be happy, because that was the thing that she cared about the most. So Stefan asks if he's done. Damon says yes. Stefan says to go see if what they have overcome without the compulsion, and Caroline comes in. She asks if she's the last stop on his apology tour, and he asks if they can get past it. He says to tell him what he has to do so they can go back to being friends, but Caroline said that she doesn't want to be friends anymore. So she definitely is still very mad at Stefan, and it's definitely going to have to take a while for him to fix this, because the thing with Stefan is he wants to fix everything, like, pronto. Like, he wants to fix it now. He thinks he can, but the thing is, he can't. He needs to realize that I understand that he wants to fix this, but he really just, he can't fix it. It's too late, you know. He needs to prove himself to Caroline, and then she will forgive him. So she walks away, and Damon goes to Elena's dorm room where she pulls out her journal and looks at the strip of photo booth images of them. And she snuffs her shirt, he knocks, and I love the way they end this episode. She pauses, then goes to the door. She opens it, he sighs to see her, and they just stare at each other. So it's obviously going to be very awkward between them, and I love where they're going with this season right now. You know, Elena and Damon have to get that spark back. I really love that. I like seeing that Alaric is now human. That's going to be cool to see what's going on with Alaric. However, now we know that if Alaric dies, he's going to remain dead. There's no getting him back. Now, do you guys think they're going to bring back the whole Joe being able to bring back people from the dead? I really hope they don't do that because I like to see, you know, people die for them to officially die. I don't want them to just come back and everything. I don't want this to turn into American Horror Story Coven. Really don't want that to happen. Also, is Tripp going to go after the humans? Definitely, I think he is going. I mean, is he going to go after the other vampires? I do think he's eventually going to find out what happened. Do you think Stefan is going to be able to repair things with Caroline? I personally think it's kind of too late. You know, he wants to, but I don't think he's going to be able to. I think it's too late for him to repair things with her. We'll have to see what happens there, definitely. And then I think the only other thing to talk about is Jeremy. Jeremy's going to have to realize that, you know, he knows that Bonnie is gone. He knows there's nothing he can do about it. He feels like an idiot. And I really hope that Jeremy fixes, you know, what he's upset about. Definitely. I'd like to see Jeremy get over that, but I don't know if he's going to. We'll have to see what happens there. And is Tripp going to kill someone major on the show? Because we have 4 episodes left of the first half of the season. It's definitely going to get really intense. And it looks like next week, Elena's actually going to go to a dance with Liam, and Damon's going to be there, and shit's going to go down, definitely. So I'm interested in seeing definitely what's going to happen there. I'm very happy that Damon's back. It's actually made a lot of things better on this show. It's making the season more interesting. Let me know what you guys saw of this episode. Overall, I thought this was the best episode of the season. I loved it. That's in my review. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys saw of this episode, and I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be my review for, I think it's either going to be for a movie review or maybe for Reign, because I am catching up on Reign, and I will review the first 5 episodes to you guys, so I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.